ancient times, humanity has gazed at the moon and wondered if one day we could set foot upon it. The answer came at the end of the 1960s, when the United States carried out the Apollo program, a feat beyond imagination. 15 Apollo missions were launched, 6 of which successfully landed humans on the moon. Each mission told a different story of intelligence, courage, and unprecedented discovery. Altogether, 12 astronauts walked on the lunar surface and brought back 382 kilograms of lunar soil and rock. Although Apollo flights ended in 1972, the knowledge gained remains valuable even today. So how did the Apollo missions reshape our understanding of the moon? Let's find out. In 1961, U.S. President John F. Kennedy addressed Congress, announcing the ambitious goal of landing an American on the moon and returning them safely before the end of the decade. Kennedy felt the immense pressure for the United States to catch up with and surpass the Soviet Union in the space race. On April 12, 1961, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first human to fly into space, leaving the U.S. humiliated. That same year, Alan Shepard became the first American in space, but only on a short suborbital flight, not an orbital one like Gagarin's. Thus, Kennedy sought a program where America had a real chance of outpacing the Soviets. Landing a man on the moon would be immensely challenging, yet it offered the U.S. the opportunity to prove leadership in space exploration. To realize this vision, NASA had to start from scratch. No one had ever been to the moon, no methods existed. At the time of Kennedy's decision, NASA's only experience was Alan Shepard's 15-minute flight. Yet they needed giant rockets to place spacecraft into Earth orbit, send them toward the moon, decelerate, land, then lift off again, adjust course mid-journey back, and finally re-enter Earth's atmosphere safely. The question was, could humanity really achieve the impossible? We now know the answer. Yes, not once, but 6 times. Not one man, but 12 walked on the moon. They not only walked, but drove lunar rovers across rugged terrain, planted flags, played golf, set up telescopes, and collected rocks to bring home. Many scientific experiments were conducted. Over 50 years later, the Apollo footprints remain. Each moment still stirs pride and emotion. But the program began with tragedy. Apollo 1, originally called AS-204, was to be the first crewed Apollo mission, scheduled for launch in February 1967. Its goal was to test the Apollo Command and Service Module in low Earth orbit. But on January 27th, during a pre-launch test inside a cabin filled with pure oxygen, a fire broke out. Flames spread rapidly, and with 3 hatch layers to open, the astronauts couldn't escape. All 3 perished. Extreme heat, thick smoke, and ineffective respirators prevented rescue. After Apollo 1, NASA reviewed everything, tightened procedures, redesigned systems, and moved forward with a series of bold test missions. There was no Apollo 2 or 3. From Apollo 4 to Apollo 10, key test flights were carried out. Apollo 4 and 6 were uncrewed flights to test the Saturn V rocket. Apollo 5 tested the lunar module in space. Apollo 7 marked the safe return of astronauts after Apollo 1, testing systems in Earth orbit. Fearing the Soviets might soon attempt a crewed lunar orbit, NASA changed plans. Apollo 8, instead of orbiting Earth, flew astronauts around the moon for the first time. It was daring and risky, but successful. Apollo 8 is famous for Earthrise, the photo showing our planet rising above the lunar horizon, offering humanity a new perspective of Earth. Next came Apollo 9, the first to test the lunar module in Earth orbit, and Apollo 10, a full rehearsal in lunar orbit, doing everything except landing. These steps prepared the way for Apollo 11. On July 20, 1969, humanity made history. Apollo 11 achieved the first lunar landing. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin piloted the lunar module Eagle, while Michael Collins remained in the command module Columbia. During descent, Armstrong saw the intended landing site was strewn with boulders. He manually guided the craft to a safer, flat area, landing with skill at the Sea of Tranquility. Armstrong became the first to step onto the lunar surface, declaring, That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Together, Armstrong and Aldrin spent 2 hours exploring, planted the US flag, collected 21.5 kilograms of soil and rock, and set up experiments, including a seismic sensor to detect moonquakes and a retroreflector for laser distance measurements. They also left behind medallions honoring the Apollo 1 crew and a plaque reading, "We came in peace for all mankind." They lifted off, rejoined Collins in orbit, and returned to Earth, splashing down safely on July 24, 1969. Apollo 11 was a triumph, fulfilling Kennedy's vision and proving U.S. leadership in the space race, while the Soviet Union never managed a crewed lunar landing. Apollo 12 soon followed, launched in November 1969 during a thunderstorm. The rocket was struck twice by lightning, but quick action restored power. The mission landed precisely near Surveyor 3, a robotic probe from 1967, proving pinpoint landings were possible. Astronauts Pete Conrad and Alan Bean deployed scientific instruments, attempted color TV transmissions, lost when the camera was accidentally pointed at the sun, and collected over 34 kilograms of lunar material, including samples from small craters. Apollo 13, launched in April 1970, was intended to be the third lunar landing, but became a dramatic survival mission after an oxygen tank exploded. With power and oxygen compromised, the crew, Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes, sheltered in the lunar module, designed only for 2 people for 2 days. They conserved resources, looped around the moon, and returned safely after 6 days. Although they never landed, Apollo 13 became a legendary example of engineering skill, teamwork, and human determination. Apollo 14, launched in January 1971, marked the triumphant return to the moon. Commanded by Alan Shepard, the first American in space, it targeted the Fra Mauro Highlands, originally planned for Apollo 13. The landing was one of the smoothest and most accurate to that point, within just 26 meters of the target. Shepard and Edgar Mitchell conducted 2 moonwalks, collecting ancient rocks to study the moon's geologic history and the impact of meteorites.